Who gon' take it there? 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 Electricity, 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 electricity. You know what's in the air. 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 It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility. It's possibility.
All right, so Adam Friedland had on Gavin Newsom on his podcast. This is the current governor of California, who everybody is speculating is going to be running for president. So he's doing sort of a press tour right now. He's had some interviews that have gone badly. He's had some softball interviews, and he's making the rounds right now, trying to sort of avoid this question of him running for president, even though he's obviously pretty transparent on that front. He doesn't seem to want to make any announcements about that until after the midterms. So it's important to keep an eye on that, as well as with all of these Democrats, because ultimately the political relationships and whether or not these are going to be grassroots movements and whether these politicians are going to be answering to grassroots movements is really going to determine what type of stuff gets done and whether the political pressure for certain issues and certain outcomes actually leads to anything. So Adam Friedland tries to get some interesting answers out of Newsom here, pokes him a little bit. He could have went harder. I think Friedland always does a good job of making people uncomfortable, which the more detestable they are, the better that works. But, you know, he could have definitely went harder on Newsom here. So here's a couple clips of basically him trying to learn how to speak to another human in real time and perhaps making a mistake in who he learns that from.
On the phone yesterday, it was like two alpha. This is what happens when two alphas get together, butt heads. And let's just say the cameras weren't on, but it is 1-0 me. Okay.
Oh, really? Is that how we're starting this?
Yes, it is 1-0
wow.
me. Okay.
So you've edited the first part of this, and we're just going to jump right into it. It's 1-0 you. Are you an editor or just a cinematographer?
No, with the camera there.
He's just a cinematographer.
Director of photography.
Yeah, it's not. Forgive me. Is that it? Do you pay him accordingly? Why are they laughing, man?
He doesn't have.
What is that? How are you guys all doing here?
He's doesn't have He's undocumented. You
guys unionized? What is this?
Shut the fuck up. Okay.
Wow.
The chess match.
I'm just saying.
The chess match continues. Okay.
By the way, when you're in San Francisco, I saw Waymo just announced they're rolling out to 10 more cities. They've been in 6, but that future started in San Francisco first.
Yeah.
And I got no bullshit. The other day, I have a picture. I think there were 6 Waymos in front of me, driverless cars in traffic. I mean, it's like stuff's happening in real time. Some of the academic struggles, my reading struggles, which I don't read speeches today. I'm a politician that doesn't read a speech because I can't read a speech. And that may not be interesting, and maybe they'll go, oh, that's why you're so boring and bad. I get it, but those that hate me.
Well, did it help you learn how to schmooze?
Yeah. Because you pick up a room, you talk about whether or not people are unionized, how much they're getting paid, and you feel a different vibe.
You have no idea.
I'm gonna do a card check.
No idea what I've coming for you.
Card check.
Yeah.
So I got your back now.
I'm a nerd.
What's your pension look?
I'm 6'3" and I'm a nerd. The book.
You don't have a pension.
Why do you write a book about?
You have the biggest. Are you doing full-time health care for these guys?
Yes, I am, boys. How's the health care? Give it up for the boys.
Maybe I won't get all.
Give it up for the boys.
Yeah. Sick leave though. What do you got?
Maybe you can help me by. I don't have to pay for it. That we could do it through the taxes. Honestly, I was nice enough to have you on. Even if you take
What's your favorite
even if you
Beatles
say
song?
psych, I'm not running for president. Just say it on the show. I'll get a clip. It'll go viral. It'll be good for me.
You're all about.
I was nice enough to invite you.
You are nice enough to invite me. I've been nice enough to organize your staff. Get them the kind of health care and pension they deserve.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You were nice enough to write a book like they all do before they announce that they're running for president.
Politician with a book. I'm surprised you had me on, man.
But your book is called "I'm Not Cool." Actually, if someone comes up to you
roots.
and they say you are a governor of a failed state, if they say to you, "Your shit sucks," it's your fault.
Yeah, go ahead.
You let in busloads of hobos and illegals.
Yeah.
This is a common perception. How do you address a person directly?
Well, I mean, we can talk about the fact we went from the 6th largest economy to the 4th largest economy. We can talk about the fact we went from 49 to 58. Fortune 500 headquartered companies, more than any other state in the nation. We could talk about having more scientists, engineers, more Nobel laureates, the finest system of higher education anywhere in the world. We could talk about the fact we're the center of innovation and entrepreneurialism with AI, with quantum, with robotics, with autonomy.
Okay. I'm a guy like in Dayton, Ohio. I don't know what any of that means.
I know.
I just heard it's covered in poop and stuff. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So
Exactly.
Why don't you just
start
say?
with the
Why don't you
meta.
say like, bro? It's mad nice. It's California. It's mad nice. We
So
have the beach. It's gorgeous. Like, just come visit. It's mad nice, actually.
By the way, this is.
It's actually gorgeous.
Why do I have political consultants?
Honestly, I'm
no,
smart.
like actually, like no bullshit. Like everyone who's watching this is like, their team. They're like 2-0 right now. Kick
Just
my
say,
ass.
bro, it's nice.
No, it's bad. I just got my ass kicked.
Right?
100%. I sound like a fucking politician.
Okay.
By the way, you know what? That is the vibe we need back. See, I'm dead serious. I appreciate this. But that's what I have this defensiveness about a lot of this stuff. And that comes across, and it comes across as slick and bullshitty. And you called it out. I appreciate that.
I think you talk about like Bernie Sanders is Medicare for all. You know, like
what's that?
what is your defined political project? Like what throughout your career and like right now? Like what is the thing you want to accomplish like politically?
I don't have
in your life.
I don't have like a brand. I don't have a tag, "Make America Great," or I don't, the Great Society, or something like Medicare for all the billionaires. But but for me, no bullshit. It's just standing up for ideals, striking out against injustice. It defines my why in every way, shape, form. Stand up for ideals, strike out against injustice. I'm a Sarge Shriver Democrat.
So if you had to define it, like, vote
I need
for
your help
me
to define
and you get
you tell
X.
me. You're better at this.
I don't know. I don't know who you. What
I
your
just gave
shit
you
is.
my why, but how do you translate
saying-
that into human?
What?
All right, so some genuinely good moments here, as well as a really good display of how Gavin Newsom's political mind works. So a couple offhand statements about things like tech and innovation and AI, and I think those are great indications of how he views those issues, and the biggest critique that I have had about Gavin Newsom pretty consistently. What I learned watching this interview is just how San Francisco his mentality is when it comes to California. And, he is very specifically talking about tech and innovation. They talk about Burning Man a lot in this interview, which, to be fair, Adam Friedland keeps bringing it up. But Newsom has pretty fond feelings for Burning Man, and he clearly just comes from that culture. It's very technocratic, his political perspective. And so there's not a lot of cynicism, there's not a lot of criticism that you hear in his tone when he brings up things like AI and Waymos. He's speaking kind of glowingly about Waymo, saying, listen, San Francisco is the place where this has blossomed and flowered and is going to spread across. That's not necessarily a good thing. Now, creating space for tech innovation is one thing. Creating space for tech innovation that is literally just taking jobs and making road conditions less safe, as well as really just employing labor. They've really just found a way to drive cars remotely by employing labor from overseas for cheaper, which is what all of these mass-scaled companies end up doing. So, is that really the type of innovation that we want to see scaled across the country? A guy like Gavin Newsom is just not really, he just doesn't even really seem like he's equipped with that level of skepticism. And then he also says this stuff about how he's good at reading a room. He goes from talking about how I'm not that good at reading. I'm a politician who doesn't read political speeches. Sounds like he's kind of trying to compare himself to Trump there. And that may very well be true, but it's clear that he has identified that as a thing that separates him from the image that people associate him as having as Gavin Newsom. So he wants to emphasize that. Listen, I'm not reading these speeches. I'm just kind of, I can't even read that good. And he keeps bringing up this thing about Adam Friedland's staff being not paid well or being unionized, which is funny. It's genuinely funny that he read the room in that way, and it gets a laugh when he makes the joke about, are these guys unionized? He's genuinely pointing to something there, because a lot of these podcasts, their production crews and stuff are not unionized, and it's why I've pointed out that it's one of the challenges when it comes to doing this, is like, if you're going to have staff, figuring out how you're going to like pay them equitably, treat them well. It's hard to do. It's not easy to do. And so, I look to models like the Majority Report, which seems to be a pretty equitable model, or for the most part, you see people thriving as individuals in these spaces. So just an interesting aspect of this that Gavin Newsom does catch on to, but it's also very cynical in the way he does it. And he identifies that as being a dub for him, like something that he caught onto, and so he keeps coming back to it. But when he keeps coming back to it, it's kind of forced, and you can really see how he's playing to the room. And there's even a part later in the interview where he points directly at the camera and he says, to my editor, like, I'm counting on you to make me look good. So he's literally playing to the people that he knows are going to end up editing this episode and trying to curry favor with them, and talking about unionizing and stuff like that. So it just shows the cynical mind of this politician. He is genuinely playing to the room. I don't think it's working as well as he thinks it's working, but it is exactly what people think of Gavin Newsom as doing, reading the room in that way. And by the way, that's the exact same thing that people say Trump does, is that he reads a room very well, and he's good at pointing people out and sort of drawing them into the conversation. And that's part of the charm that people say that he has. So Gavin Newsom is displaying that same instinct here. And it seems like that's pretty nakedly his political talent, right? Because Friedland is even trying to get him at the end to say something about, like, what do you believe in? What's your political project? What are you trying to do? What do you want people to associate you with? And he doesn't really have a good answer for that. And they skip right over it with Medicare for all. Even those words coming out of his mouth, he kind of just like tosses it, barely says it, can't bring himself to say those words powerfully, even though he has in the past advocated for single payer in California, but he backed away from that position, doesn't talk about it very much anymore. And that's really, the thing that he misses here. He's spending all of this time, he's doing this whole press tour, he's trying to get people to be curious about his story and who he is as a person. He's even admitting that he has spent part of his life coming off fake and try hard and saying, like, I'm working on finding myself now. And he can't bring himself to like narrow it down to a set of policies. And this thing he says about striking out against injustice, standing up for ideals, is incredibly vapid politician speak. And I get that for him, he thinks that because of his track record, he came up leading on gay marriage in San Francisco, and like he was saying about these tech issues and certain issues that California has genuinely been very good on. And so he thinks when he says, standing up against injustice, that people are just automatically going to know what that means. But people don't automatically know that you mean the same thing as them when you say that anymore, because we see Democrats who are afraid to talk about the issue of Israel and say the word genocide when it comes to Gaza, talking about standing up against injustice. And so that's why I think you see Newsom doing this pivot here, where all of a sudden he's open to comparing Israel to an apartheid state. To me, that seems like he's absorbing a very particular stream of political rhetoric, whether it's like reading Ta-Nehisi Coates' book maybe, or listening to some of the left-wing voices that describe the issue of Israel beyond just saying, are you or are you not gonna call it a genocide? Actually talking about the dynamic in Israel. What's funny about him making that statement is that his office came out quickly afterwards to say that Gavin Newsom supports Israel and its right to defend itself, period. Very AIPAC approved language. And he also keeps saying this thing about how the current leadership, the current government of Israel is what's walking us down this dark path. You get this from a lot of Democratic politicians, including Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders gets hammered for this over and over again, and he's right to, because the problem of Israel, even as being an apartheid state, which Gavin Newsom himself said, that didn't start with Netanyahu, that didn't start with the current government, that's just built into the project of Israel. And so it means that, like, in order to really talk about solving that problem, you're gonna have to get a lot deeper than any American politician has been willing to get, in terms of how do you re-engineer the situation in the Middle East in a way that is truly democratic, so that all the people who live there can have a say, and really a truth and reconciliation process that favors the Palestinians that have been forced off of their land. That's the type of process that, if you're really talking about standing up against injustice in Israel and Palestine, that's what you're going to have to talk about. So certain politicians, at least rhetorically, are ready to get closer to that type of territory. Gavin Newsom is not one of them, and it's one of the reasons that his team has to reflexively walk back what he said in a moment of what could be candor of somebody who is at least absorbing more rhetoric from what, genuine critics of Israel are saying. But as a political animal, as a political entity, he's never going to be able to fully address that problem, because utilizing the leverage that America has over Israel to say that these certain conditions that you have created, not just who you're bombing in Gaza, but the actual conditions in Israel that have been created that do reflect an apartheid state. The United States governments can reshape all of that purely as a matter of political pressure. And whether the Democrats are willing to admit it or not, the country is ready for that. People are ready to hear that. And hearing different types of ideas and noises about how to address the injustice that Israel represents is going to be a huge way that people become interested, not just in politics, but in foreign politics. People want good solutions on that issue, and it starts with cutting off the aid. And then conversations can be had about what a country that American tax dollars should support should look like. So anyway, I think that Adam did an okay job here. It's clear that the strategy of his show is to take a large portion of it to talk about people's lives and who they are, what sort of motivates them, and what are their kind of like petty thoughts on various things. And then some genuine moments of pressing them. I think that Newsom kind of does it to himself here, because he, in his grasping to try to come off as relatable and to try to solve the problem of his unlikability that he knows is a problem, he comes off as exactly the shapeshifter and the chameleon that people suspect him to be. And so we can expect to continue to see him shapeshifting and chameleoning. And like I said, it's going to be after the midterms, and however all that turns out, that he is going to solidify his political approach. And he's trying to keep all of the doors open to go in different directions, because that's the type of politician that he is. And so when it comes to governing, I think Gavin Newsom has done some decent operation. It is true that he has created methods of opposing Trump in a way that has genuinely led within the Democratic Party that isn't doing much. But the problem with that is that he is connected to all of the corporate forces within California that are aligned with his ability to do that from sort of a democratic perspective. And as soon as he wants to accomplish something that is not aligned with those corporate forces, like single-payer healthcare, even in California, he's going to realize that he doesn't have the political support to sustain him through an effort like that, because the coalition that has helped Gavin Newsom stay in power is a coalition of a lot of wealth. San Francisco wealth, California wealth, some of the wealthiest people, not just in the country, but in the world, is the political ilk that Gavin Newsom comes from. And so ultimately, he may be floated by that all the way through to a general election for the presidency. But if that happens, even if he's making all the right noises on healthcare and Palestine and whatever else, AI, it's still going to be hollow rhetoric, exactly like we're seeing on this show, because he is not going to forego that corporate power and his political connections that have sustained him to cater to a grassroots movement that is actually going to challenge that corporate power. He's just never going to do it. He's going to try to split the difference and give us neoliberal solutionism, because that is what he's created his career doing. And the truth is that might be enough to win another election. If the left flank of the base that is dominating rhetorically right now when it comes to these electoral results, if that left flank base, which is us, is not active in making sure that a guy like Gavin Newsom does not get to that point, this guy could absolutely get floated all the way through a general election. Who knows what that would look like? J.D. Vance versus Gavin Newsom, technocrat versus technocrat. It's a real possibility, because the political power behind this guy is there for that. And he's going to try to make all the right noises regardless of that political power. So that's why making him feel unwelcome in these political spaces is probably a good thing to do, and teaching him how to be more human is probably a bad thing to do. Although I think, like AI, it'll never quite leave uncanny territory, and it will always just be a little uncomfortable.
Me too close to, too much to do. The mission is too crucial. Shout it out from the rooftops until I lose vocals. Who gon' take it there? 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 Electricity, 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 electricity.